Imagine that staying connected and entertained in the past was not as easy as it is today. Many of the technological items used back then have become outdated, but their influence remains undeniable. Let's go back in time to relive these vanished everyday technological items, and wait until you see the last item. The Yellow Pages were special pages used in phone directories to list businesses by type and the services they offered. But how were the Yellow Pages chosen? They were introduced in 1883 when a printer in Cheyenne, Wyoming ran out of white paper and used yellow paper as an alternative. The idea of using yellow paper caught on, and in 1886, the first directory with Yellow Pages was created. These books were very useful before the invention of the internet because the directory contained details of every type of business you might find, such as plumbers, barbers, and restaurants in your area. However, now that we have the internet, finding businesses is much easier online, so the Yellow Pages are no longer used as much. Do you remember the spinning card storage device in the office? This was, as it's called, the Rolodex, a popular tool for storing contact information before the modernized digital era. The Rolodex was invented by a Danish engineer named Hildar Nielsen in 1956 and quickly became an essential tool for offices worldwide. The term Rolodex is a combination of rolling and index. Each card in the Rolodex can be typed or written on, and the whole unit could be spun around, providing easy access to locate a specific card. But now, consider this. Was the Rolodex truly indispensable, or was it just a passing trend? By the 1980s, having a large Rolodex was considered a sign of business connections and success. However, as technology evolved, these Rolodexes were replaced by digital lists on computers and smartphones, making the Rolodex less and less popular. Video cassette recorders, or VCRs, were a significant part of in-house entertainment in older times. These devices worked by recording TV shows and movies on small tapes that you could watch later. You might be wondering why this existed when we can just watch Netflix today. Well, streaming services didn't exist yet. This meant that, with the help of VCRs, you could pre-record versions of your favorite shows whenever you wanted. VCRs could also play pre-recorded tapes. This function was very popular in the 80s and 90s. However, as technology improved, DVDs and streaming devices replaced these VCRs, and production was halted, as the majority of people began watching shows in newer and digital ways. Speaking of VCRs, cassette tapes used to be a popular way to listen to your favorite music. You probably came across cassette tapes while your father drove you to school when you were little, or maybe you used them yourself. These tapes were invented by a Dutch company called Philips and were released in 1963. They were designed as small plastic cases with too many spirals inside, containing a roll of magnetic tape for recording sound. People were drawn to these tapes because they were portable and they could record their own music mixes on them. In the 70s and 80s, cassette tapes were widely used. However, with the advent of MP3 players and other digital ways to listen to music, cassette tapes have become less popular and are now mainly collected by enthusiasts. What made cassette tapes so unique? And why are some people still fascinated by this old audio technology? 8-track tape, also known as Stereo 8, was a magnetic sound technology that was popular in the United States from the 1960s until it became outdated in the 1980s. Have you ever wondered why these players were usually found in cars? They stood out because you didn't have to flip the tape to play more songs, as with regular cassette tapes. Additionally, they had a longer playtime than a normal cassette, which was convenient for longer car rides without the need to change tapes frequently. Have you ever had great albums on 8-track? Do you remember those floppy disk compartments in your old computers? What did you mainly use them for? In older computer hardware, floppy disks were once a common way to store and transfer data. These were compact square disks with the capacity to store a limited amount of data. The first floppy disk was created in 1971 and measured 8 inches in size. However, over time, these disks became progressively smaller, first to 5.5 inches and then to 3.5 inches. These disks were extremely popular and widely used in the 1980s and 1990s, especially before hard drives became affordable for most people. However, the ever-evolving world of technology has replaced these floppy disks with USB flash drives, CDs, and online cloud storage. This new technology is more user-friendly, can store more data, and transfers it faster. As a result, the popularity of floppy disks has decreased, and they have become obsolete. Personal digital assistants, or PDAs, played a vital role before smartphones took over. First invented in 1984 by a company called Scion, the term PDA was first used in 1992 by the CEO of Apple, referring to the Apple Newton. Looks very similar to a smartphone, right? These devices can be described as small handheld computers that help people manage their personal information. PDAs came with features like calendars, address books, and more. In the 2000s, most PDAs were able to connect to the internet. However, the invention of smartphones surpassed everything that PDAs could do and more. As a result, PDAs became less popular and obsolete. Imagine pagers also played a major role before cell phones became popular. Weren't these small devices, often referred to as beepers, significant in facilitating communication? Pagers were very popular among emergency workers and doctors in the 1980s and 1990s, as they would send a beep or vibration to an individual, asking them to find a phone and call back. Unfortunately, pagers eventually received criticism and a bad reputation, as they were frequently used for selling illegal substances. Today, with the era of texting, the use of pagers has declined. Isn't it intriguing how technology evolves, rendering once indispensable gadgets obsolete? The answering machine was a device used to record messages and answer phone calls. Can you imagine what it was like to have an answering machine at home? Invented in the 20th century, it has a fascinating history. The early versions utilized magnetic recordings, a technology invented by Valdemar Poulsen in 1898. The first operational answering machine was developed in 1930 by Clarence Hickman of Bell Laboratories and various other inventors. However, the electronic secretary was the first commercially successful answering machine and was introduced in 1949. Over time, answering machines became more affordable and widely used. Nowadays, they are largely replaced by voicemail systems built into phones. In this age, it's even easier as you can simply send someone a message via your smartphone. Would they have ever envisioned this evolution back in 1898? Dial-up internet access was a popular method of connecting to the internet through the Public Switch Telephone Network, PSTN. It was introduced in the 1980s and became globally available in the 1990s. Have you ever wondered how this connection worked? Users could connect to the internet by dialing a phone number on a conventional telephone line, and the connection was established through a modem. The modem converted signals from a computer from digital to audio and vice versa. Nevertheless, dial-up was known for its very slow speeds, often reaching a maximum of 56 kilobits per second. Despite its limitations, dial-up has largely become obsolete as faster connection options like DSL and cable became prevalent. Did you know that the cathode ray tube was a significant development in the history of display technology? The CRT was often found in old computer monitors and televisions, operating by directing electron beams onto a phosphorescent screen to illuminate and create images. This technology was first introduced in the 19th century, with the initial model named the Braun tube, invented by the German physicist Ferdinand Braun in 1897. Made of thick glass, they often occupied a considerable amount of space due to their size and weight. However, over time, modern technologies such as flat panel LCD, OLED, and plasma displays, which are lighter and more energy efficient, took over, rendering CRTs obsolete. Overhead projectors, originally used in the mid-20th century to display images on a screen or wall, were once an essential tool in classrooms. But how were they used, and did these projectors evolve and ultimately lose their place? They operated by shining a light through a transparency onto a mirror, which would then reflect the image on a surface for everyone to see. These projectors were primarily used in classrooms, allowing presenters to showcase a visual or written information to a large audience. However, with the advancement of technology, overhead projectors have been replaced by digital projectors, which use computer files to display images or slides directly onto a screen, offering better resolution and clearer images. As a result, overhead projectors have lost popularity and become obsolete. Do you recall any of these things? Let us know in the comments below. If you enjoyed our video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel, and hit the bell icon so you never miss another video from us.